vitamin C with your iron-rich foods to enhance the absorption of the iron. And websites like veganoutreach.org have a whole section on nutrition that you can read up on. And PCRM.org, that's the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. They have some great resources and a 21-day vegan kickstart program, which has free recipes. You can sign up on their website and get those depending on whatever kind of cuisine you like, whether it's Indian, Mexican.
How great is that?
Yeah, it's like for everyone's palate.
That's when I really love the internet.
Yeah.
When it can be so resourceful and used for positive things.
For sure.
And help people. And what you also want your animals to have a vegan diet. That is important.
We are working on a proposal for dogs to be plant-based at the Los Angeles shelters. And it's important because right now there are 33,000 dogs in the Los Angeles city shelters that are being fed a meat meal-based food, which is actually mainly chicken meals, the first ingredient. Chickens are the worst abused animals on the face of the planet. They are not even given protections under the Humane Slaughter Act because they're not mammals, which is just outrageous. And I, as a veterinarian, have watched many undercover videos of chickens being slaughtered and inhumanely. I mean, where they're still conscious when their throats are slit, or in some cases, if the blade doesn't slit their throat and they're scalded alive. It's really horrific what these poor creatures suffer through. And to have to feed another animal something that is not necessary, because dogs are omnivores. They are not carnivores. They don't need animal protein to survive or even thrive. It's a real tragic thing that is going on right now that doesn't need to be that way. So we're trying to get the word out that dogs can be plant-based, that they can thrive on plant-based food. And there are thousands of dogs that are doing great on plant-based diets. And it's actually...
That's wonderful. And probably more cost-effective, too, right?
Yeah, definitely, because they're not going to be as sick.
Yeah.
They won't have as much allergies. A lot of the allergies that manifest with skin itching, biting, scratching, and licking is from meat protein allergy to chicken and beef.
Yeah, and who knows how, like you said, these chickens are being tortured, and you don't know what else is maybe getting into the processing with them. I mean, you hear things, that are less than ethical, unfortunately,
right.
Which, you don't know how that's going to affect the animals. And, it's so sad.
Definitely.
It's very sad.
Plus, there's so many toxins that are bioaccumulated in the animal flesh. So we're talking about heavy metals like arsenic, which is a group 1 carcinogen. And cancer is at an epidemic now in dogs, where
Absolutely.
1 in 2 dogs dying from cancer. So this is a huge concern for the dog's well-being, as it is for the, of course, well-being and survival of other animals and the planet that we live on. Because right now we're facing a crisis with global warming.
And where do all these chickens are on chicken farms? And so
Factory
all
farms,
over the nation.
Right.
Okay.
Intensive confinement facilities where they're crammed in small spaces, unable to move around, unable to spread their wings without, bumping up against a bird next to them, and debeaked without anesthetic, with tender nerve tissue is...
Can you believe that?
It's just terrible.
There's a theory that I've heard, and I don't know what you think about this, but the energy that's carried over through torture, like when the animal dies and then is fed, to use as a meal, is not good energy for your body to ingest.
Absolutely not.
So that kind of torture carries over, they say, to when you are, whether you're an animal or person eating that meal.
I agree. And I think it has...
Which is not good for the cells or body.
Definitely. I mean, there are effects that we probably aren't even able to quantify.
Right.
That really go beyond what our, materialistic understanding of science and health is. But when you just look at the health of animals these days compared to decades ago, it's gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better.
And isn't that funny where we're such, like, in one way so evolved, where we, in this world right now, but you look at other things like cancer is on the rise, and autism, and all of these kind of what I call like gray area diseases, autoimmune things that, and then you look at like actually what we're eating, the air we're breathing, and you put it all together, in many ways it's worse than it was.
Definitely.
Because it's it's more polluted.
Right.
Our water, our food, the air, just all of our natural resources.
Which is why we just have to shift towards a sustainable way.
Right.
Which having organic plant-based farming methods is really the way of the future.
What do your plant-based animal diets look like? Are they having beans that's made into a a meal or cornmeal? I mean,
some of them have corn, some of them have pea protein.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And various legumes can be used, grains, pulses. Dogs actually have the ability to digest carbohydrates much more so than wolves, who are their ancestors. And that was studied recently that actually the genes they have are much more prevalent than the wolves' genes for digestion of carbohydrates. So they are able to do that, especially given their evolution with humans over the last over 15,000 years. They've spent time with humans and they've evolved that ability. So it's not like they can't handle grains. Sometimes people have a misconception of thinking that grains are somehow not suitable for dogs, but actually dogs can digest grains just fine.
What is the easiest way for somebody to start their dog on a plant-based diet? Just an average person.
Well, if they're feeding a conventional food, such as Purina or IM's chow kibble, they can switch over to a plant-based kibble such as Natural Balance or Nature's Recipe, PetGuard VDog, v-dog.com, Evolution, petfoodshop.com, Benevo.com. There are plenty of different brands.
So there's many brands that have gone plant-based.
Probably at least a dozen brands out there that have at least a plant-based option available. We have some information on our website, plantbased.dog, which goes into profiles of dogs that are thriving on vegan foods, as well as vets in support of this initiative. But yeah, it should be a gradual transition to minimize diarrhea, which can sometimes happen. But if it's done over the course of a week, gradually increasing the proportion of the vegan food, it's a lot easier for their digestive system. But some dogs don't even have that much of an issue, even if it is done abruptly. So it is best to do it on a gradual basis if that's feasible. And sometimes dogs can be a little picky. You may want to try something else if they're not eating the food right away. Use some nutritional yeast to stimulate their interest in it.
Mm-hmm. I love nutritional yeast.
Yeah, it has B vitamins. It's really healthy.
So tell us a little bit about your nonprofit.
Oh, yes.
I would love to hear about that.
A nonprofit group I started called the Veterinary Association for the Protection of Animals, or VAPA, and our website is vapavets.org. And this was started because I've noticed many people coming to me over the years wanting to become veterinarians, and they are concerned about having to kill or harm animals in veterinary school. That really is a problem and needs to be addressed, because we could help so many more animals if we had more animal-friendly veterinarians. Not that the veterinarians that we have are bad people. I mean, they're doing the best that they can, but the problem that happens in vet schools when you have to do procedures in which animals are killed or harmed, it desensitizes a person to the feelings of those animals.
I remember the day I stopped wanting to be a veterinarian was when I realized I would have to operate on like a turtle or a dog, and I would have to in my mind, because I loved them so much, I would be hurting them, right? I'd have to like cut them open or worse, put them to sleep, and I thought, that's out for me.
Right.
So that is very interesting. Through all of your work, you've seen this area. That's also not an area that a lot of people like to talk about because it feels almost a little embarrassing. Mm-hmm. So, okay, please continue telling us about this. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so there's a vet school called Western University College of Veterinary Medicine, which has a reverence for life philosophy here in Southern California in Pomona. And they don't have any harmful or terminal use of animals at all in their curriculum. They use what's called a willed body donation program, where they accept donations of cadavers of dogs who are euthanized for humane medical reasons, or cats, or die of natural causes, to have students learn about anatomy, which of course vet students have to learn that somehow. And I think that could be a really good model for other vet schools across the country to adopt.
Absolutely.
When I was a student at UC Davis, I helped coordinate a surgery training wet lab using ethical source cadavers from a similar type body will program, and then subsequent to that, we had the phasing out of what were then offered as terminal surgeries, where students had performed surgeries on animals who were killed at the end of the procedure. And then you can't even learn that well that way because you don't even see how your patient recovered. But they replaced that with an option where students could perform surgeries with faculty supervision on animals who needed the procedures.
For instance, a cat in, phase 4 of cancer, or that would need a surgery or removal of a tumor. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's what started being implemented?
They started implementing rotation during senior year, so students could do those surgeries with faculty supervision on animals who actually needed
it. Wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so I'd like to see more of that spread to other vet schools. The other part of what our group, VAPA, Veterinary Association for the Protection of Animals, does is to raise awareness about the benefits of veganism to the veterinary profession. And we do this through educational presentations, as well as documentary screenings, films such as Peaceable Kingdom, which show the connection between farmed animals and people, especially former farm hands who were involved in slaughter of these animals, had a churning of their minds to where they recognized that there was something inside of themselves that they were turning off in order to allow them to do these unfortunate acts towards these innocent creatures, and finally came to terms with the fact that they really needed to honor that part of themselves that was compassionate towards those animals that perhaps as a child they had been told didn't matter or were to be ignored. Mm-hmm. And so many times, we see in society that we love our dogs and cats, but then what about pigs, chickens, and cows? It's almost like they don't exist or they don't matter. Mm-hmm. But they all have sentience. They all have the ability to suffer, to feel pain, as well as pleasure and joy and fear. And those emotions are, part of the fabric of who we are as living creatures on this planet. And to be able to connect to that, I think is very powerful and affirming of who we are as earthlings on this planet.
Absolutely. Sharing this planet with not only other people and people from other countries, but animals and animals all over the world, wild animals, farm animals, animals we consider domestic, pets. I mean, right. And that's an interesting thing you bring up too. There's always that back and forth about, are animals emotional? Can they feel pain? And I mean, I've certainly seen enough videos where you take a baby from its mom, and that mama elephant or mama dolphin or mama dog, they're crying. They're getting, fear, anger, joy. I think those all translate whether you're a human or animal. And that's interesting. Is there research that says that they are emotive?
Oh, for sure. There's a lot of research.
All animals.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially...
From a fish?
Yeah, fish feel pain. Some of them mate for life, in fact. I mean, and what happens to them being pulled from the ocean, I mean, they're being suffocated. And there's so much bycatch, too. That means other animals that are not the intended target species.
I see.
End up being taken along for the ride, unfortunately. And at this rate, our oceans are being depleted.
Tuna used to hear with dolphins.
Yeah, well, you hear about dolphin-safe tuna. Well, what about tuna-safe tuna?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean... There's a big concern about the depletion of the oceans now. With scientists are predicting that by 2048 our oceans are going to be completely depleted.
Destroyed. Yeah. And what do you think about the habitat that our ocean is becoming for these animals?
It's becoming polluted. A lot of plastics are getting thrown in the ocean. People are so reliant upon convenience. I have my glass water bottle here.
I know.
Because
Don't look.
I mean, there's always room for imperfection, and that's, part of our existence. But if we can try to move away from plastic as much as feasible, or not get that straw when you're at the restaurant.
Yes.
Or bring your own glass straw or steel straw. It helps prevent the oceans from getting bogged down with this plastic waste.
What happens to plastic once it's in the ocean, and why is it so harmful?
It doesn't degrade. It actually, sometimes it'll go into little pieces, but it won't actually disintegrate the way biodegradable matter can, and therefore it can block the intestines of creatures. It can get into the organs of all kinds of marine animals, and it can get stuck like straws. I've seen a video of a straw getting stuck inside a tortoise's nasal passages,